Sadashivasamarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Om Om Shanti 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 Om Namaste. Welcome. 13th chapter Gita, verse 15. We have seen in the previous class that the nature of Brahman, and we are analyzing Brahman's nature from the standpoint of Sat, existence, the isness that somehow lends or concedes apparent existence to the entire universe, which is but Namarupas superimposed upon existence. So existence, as we know, is a much more subtle and philosophical concept, but nevertheless, we can go into a certain investigation, inquire into the nature of existence, which is the topic on Panchadasi, and a very beautiful text. And then we come to the understanding that existence is the same thing as consciousness. So it's, so to speak, as the two sides of the same coin. And here Krishna and Swamiji is unfolding some verses in which the text presents the nature of Brahman as everything in the Jagata realm, in Jagata level. We have seen it's everything in the mental level, human consciousness, and it's everything, the thoughts, the emotions, and the mind fundamentally is a very nice expression of this unmanifest only reality, is the intellect shining as Aham. That is as well Brahman. That is what allows us to understand the final declaration that says the Aham is of nature of Satchitananda Brahman. It just needs to break away from this mistaken identification with the body mind, aham body mind as me, has to be examined so that one can correct that concept of misidentification, and then one can define oneself clearly, directly, as pure, limitless conscious existence, the only reality. So we are seeing that everything is Brahman. We are looking at Jagata. We have seen that it manifests as if it has eyes everywhere, it has hands everywhere, because all dynamism, they happen through the five instruments of actions and the five instruments of perception. And these instruments of action and perception, they are in the realm of, we are mostly talk about the instruments of action, okay, which is a perception as well, the physical instrument. So we have the physical instrument is definitely part of this Jagata, apparent, manifest reality in terms of physicality, So our instruments are physical instruments, the eyes and so on. And it's all Brahman. So Brahman is not only the objects, the Namarupas we see outside, but even our very physical body and the physical instruments of perception and the physical instruments of actions. This is all Sat, the Jagata, material, inert nature of Brahman. We are analyzing in this verse. The previous verse talked about that. And the 15th verse, the previous one says it has hands and legs everywhere, eyes, heads, mouths. So all the instruments of action and reception, they are all superimpositions upon Brahman. The existence of these instruments, they are just due to the only existence there is, which is Brahman as existence, and then since these objects, such as the five sense, five organs, five instruments of action, and five instruments of perception, they are seen as objects, but fundamentally, even when we look at our instruments of action, instruments of reception, oh, my eyes will fade, oh, oh, my leg. So all of the instruments of actions and perception fundamentally is existing due to the existence of Brahman. That's the bottom line. Okay, we are resolving Brahman as the existence of everything in Jagata, and in this verse that I just read, the 14th, if I'm not wrong, it was referring to that. Five instruments of actions, five instruments of perception. They are all Brahman, as if Brahman, appearing as all of that, interacts with this Mithya order, through perception and response, and so on. So the verse we move in today carries on the same line, saying it is manifest through the functions of all organs. It is free from the organs. It sustains everything, yet is unattached. It is the experiencer of the gunas, yet it's free from the gunas. So it's the again and again the same concept, but when we go into deeper waters of Vedanta, we see all those breakdowns, the same concepts analyzed more specifically on some aspects, of our inner experience, in this case, as a human being, because we have the organs of perception and action, and that is all Brahman. We can more easily understand that as the glory of Ishvara, the intelligence that somehow manage these five sense and of actions and receptions. We see it's all Ishvara, but on a deeper level, we are resolving it into Brahman as Sat, the existence that somehow allows existence to all Namarupas. So this principle is Brahman, as we know, in its existing nature. Yet this Brahman is free from all instruments and all organs of perception and actions. Although it's completely free from anything it accommodates, it sustains everything. So again, it should be understood there is a very, very subtle, fine line between Ishvara and Brahman. So Ishvara is Brahman colored, so to speak, by the Prakriti of Maya, by the Sattva guna of Maya. And then we have this self-conscious, limitless, so to speak, entity that somehow is omniscient, has all the knowledge of the entire cosmos. So we have this Ishvara, the supreme intelligence, but fundamentally with the laser vision, laser-like vision of the Upanishads, we see through this intelligence, and then we come to understand that even Sattva guna is a superimposition made by Maya to create a creator, to bring about a creator so that we can have an apparent creator project an apparent Jagata in which the apparent jivas interact and play. So this fundamental free and independent substratum, space-like substratum, it sustains it through the functions. It sustains everything, but yet it does so without doing anything, without being impacted by anything, without being unattached by any whatsoever thing. So, and again, the example of space is the most simple and most convincing, because the space does exactly that without being impacted by anything. We remember the teachings. that we may be misled to believe that space may be contaminated by certain things. And then we have the pot of argilla, and then there we put some milk, and then later on we remove the milk, and then somebody with discrimination not so refined may smell the pot and says it is spoiled. Why? Because the space is contaminated by the smell of the milk. Okay. And then comes a Vedantine and says, I'm sorry, but I need to bring it to your attention that this space is never contaminated by anything. What was contaminated there was air. Air was contaminated because, first of all, the milk has contaminated the walls of the pot. The walls of the pot has transferred for a period of time that bad smell into the air. Okay, but it fades with time. And then the space was never really contaminated or affected or impacted by anything that is built upon itself, either by nature or by humans, and it remains unattached. And then this Brahman, this existence, is the experience of the gunas, and now it shifts from Brahman as pure existence to Brahman as pure consciousness, okay? Because the true experiencer of the Prakriti order of Maya, which is possible due to the superimposition of the gunas that brings about the subtle elements and then the physical element, the chemical, the physical, everything comes from the Prakriti of Maya. So it would make no sense if there would not be the jivas there to transact in this wonderful magic world. Okay, so we need to have an experiencer, and then of course the human jiva takes itself to be the true experiencer, but it is the true experiencer in its true nature as Satchitananda, the only reality. Yeah? But unfortunately, the human jiva identifies with its guna nature, with its body mind sense complex. Okay, so then to correct this misapprehension in regards to jivas identification, it says this Brahman, which sustains everything without being touched by anything, because it's free even from the sense organs that allows this relationship with Jagata. So this Brahman is the true experiencer behind the experiencing entity, the body mind sense complex of the human jivas. Okay. So who is the experiencer? The experiencer is Brahman. And here there is a shift, because before we are talking about Brahman from the standpoint of Sat, existence, and now we are talking in terms of experiencer. When we talk about experiencing entity or experiencer, which is not an entity, we are referring to Chit, which is consciousness. Are we following? Are we on the same page? Any questions?
Only that when you use the term experiencer as Brahman, it sort of makes Brahman somehow in the field of change, but how can that be?
Yeah, so those appearing contradictions, with time you resolve them as you read them, okay? Naturally,
It's
the
just use of language, how the language is used.
no, it is the difficult here is because we are talking about Satya and Mithya, and Mithya exists within Satya, and sometimes we refer to something as its Mithya, superimposition Satya, and then we somehow we do this discrimination, and we refer to satya. So who is the experiencer of this guna nature? The very mind is made out of gunas. Okay, there is a principle that witness everything made out of the prakriti of Maya. But of course, the point there, as we know, is that Brahman is not an experiencing entity, okay? Because as we know, the experience entity will always be subject to change. Why? Because the world is changing from moment to moment, the world changing, and then my experience change. And the jiva, under the spell of avidya, identifies itself as the experiencing entity. Therefore, it feels like things are changing and I am changing. You remember the old joke of James? Oh, there is a lot of change here, you know. The two people talk to one another. How are you doing, man? Oh, I'm going through a lot of change. So just to point out that from the standpoint of the experiencing entity, there is a lot of change, and sometimes a lot of changing takes place. But from the standpoint of the true nature of the experiencing entity, there is no change whatsoever, okay? Because consciousness is lumines the world without touching the world, without interacting with the world. It interacts through the body mind sense complex, the experiencing entity. So this Brahma is the true experiencer, although it experiences just by illumining and revealing and not at all interacting with it, because for the interaction you need an instrument to interact with, and then the jiva comes into play, and then the jiva interacting with jagata becomes the experiencing entity, which is going to experience change all the time. Fundamentally, Vedanta brings us to a corner in which, you know, the simplest way to do this viveka is to discriminate that we see the scope of my very human experience, that which does not change and that which changes. Okay, so we know that the world is changed all the time, but in my inner world, is it changing? Yeah, it is changing all the time. My thoughts, feelings, emotions, and notions and so on, everything is changing. My interpretation of the events of the world. So, but I have to do this discriminate. There is something we see in our very experience as human beings that does not change. Again, there is an experiencing element to what was just said. You know, if we really observe over the decades, there is something that does not change, but the personality, the body mind construct has been changing all along, right? But we can identify that there is something that was always present, never changed. Okay, it's very interesting because when I got in contact with Vedanta, a lot of old memories start flashing. Memories from the time I was living in a place. I was 5, 6, 7 years old, and I was already very, on my own, sitting on the walking side of the small little road of small village, small little house, and then there just looking around, a little bit scared and so on. And then I tapped with those moments, those memories, and I immediately identified that consciousness is still the same today. That witnessing consciousness is still the same. So the story I make about those experiences keep changing. So this principle, which is consciousness, is free from the gunas, yet it's experiencing all the gunas and without being affected by the gunas. So, and then again, it is a principle that illumines and reveals the guna in a way that there is no real experience as we know experience to be. Experience is an interaction in which change happens, as we know. So as Lynn has said, So what kind of experiencer is this one? Is a witnessing conscious principle that from the standpoint of the Jiva, experience the change world with a minimizing, with a minimal possible change in this reflect consciousness, illumining and experiencing the world. In another way, illumining and experience the world with a sense of equanimity, a sense of okay, no emotional involvement or no strong emotional involvement, just like witnessing consciousness experience the world in an unemotional way. And that sometimes makes people think that Ramana was almost like a extraterrestrial being because he was never expressing much emotions, but that is somehow the nature of consciousness manifest as a human being when there is no attachment to what is, but no expectations, total equanimity, total vairagya. And then you experience things like that, more and more like, oh, why I'm not really feeling any emotional response? Huh? This is freedom from the gunas because philosophically we understand that, but we always have to bring to the level of self knowledge because self knowledge is an experience of life from derived from understanding one's true nature as that which never changes. That somehow allows this body, mind, sense experience entity to experience the world with the minimal change possible because of this identification with its true nature, which does not change, but yet we are living, we are still incarnated, exhausting our karmas, and we once we begin experience the world with the minimal uh, sense of change. As we know, the body mind change, the mind changes, okay? But as Swamiji says, the change is going to become less and less and less, and the change is less often present, and the change is less profoundly happening, and the recovery is very rapid as well. When there is change, you just look, no, I am consciousness, witnessing. This is my true nature, and as an experienced entity, I have to benefit from this knowledge in a way that somehow is offset my emotional reactions, right? One is the philosophical true language, the other has to be adapted to our human nature. The eyes can reveal only colors, they cannot reveal sound, as we know. We experience sound, we experience colors. So the eyes are never going to experience smell, as we know. So we have the five elements which give rise to our five sense organs, so organs of perception. And each one of these organs are going to contact their respective elements. So everything is there. Now, the five elements are there, and the five sense organs, the, the vision and uh, the hearing, and the touching, the tasting, and so on. Everything is there. Sense organs are there. And we say, yes, I can objectify my sense organs. I have done the big Riksha Viveka. I know that the sense organs, they are an object by which I can reach the objective world, out there. So what is common to everything is what? The isness, okay? I'm going to capture some sounds, some taste, some names, colors, and forms. And those things, they are what they are. So they exist. The sensory operations uniform reveals that Brahman alone is, because the entire sensory operations uniformly reveal that Brahman alone is in the form of those five sense and five channels by which we get the the fundamental elements respective to those five senses. The problem is you are attracted by Namarupa and you lose sight of what? Brahman. So we have seen this. Brahman is the existence, which in this verse appears again as consciousness. The problem is we are attracted by Namarupa and we lose sight of the inherent existence in all of them. So we have seen in the previous class that we can never experience consciousness without the mind, which is reflected consciousness. And we cannot experience the Brahman as consciousness because directly because we can only experience through its reflection in the human intellect. And likewise, we can never experience original existence without a reflection of this original existence on Namarupas, because Namarupas are going to appear within existence, and then they are soaked in existence, so to speak, and then we say this Namarupa is. So this sense organ is, this sensory object is, this, everything is. And of course, due to the fact that we don't have a channel by which we can perceive the seer, perceive, which is the experiencing entity, or perceive pure existence. How I'm gonna see pure existence if I can only see, touch, smell, and taste, the Namarupas within existence. The Namarupas, the configurations, they are going to be there designed according to some of its attributes and properties and qualities. It's all guna stuff, okay? And I need my five sensory apparatus to experience and know that. But existence itself is free from the gunas. It was just said here. It sustains the gunas, but it's free from the gunas. We don't have any equipment to perceive existence directly, pure existence. The same way we don't have an instrument to perceive consciousness. Okay, we will try. We know already, and we will make an effort to get to know conscious existence only by understanding that I am of the nature of conscious existence, the only reality. That's why self-knowledge is direct and immediate self-knowledge. You don't, there are no instruments, there are no ways you can know conscious existence because it's not within a duality. I, myself, and an object of knowledge. I myself in an object of experience, we call it existence or consciousness. Such it is not an object because it's free from the gunas, okay? Object must be configured by gunas, okay? Must be a composition of the gunas. It is gunaless, is attributeless, guna tita, beyond the gunas, or before the gunas. And then, of course, just imagine the situation. You don't have any instrument to see existence, but you have the instrument to see the namarupas, which are just a superimposition upon existence. Of course, you're going to be attracted by that you can access. You see why almost nobody is interested in these deeper topics of Vedanta, the profound topics of Vedanta, not so just mostly like philosophical, academic, or psychological, or scientific. Nowadays there are people mixing up science. So almost nobody is interested in, because there is no attraction. Okay, you cannot taste, you can only know it as your true nature, and that remains something that people cannot conceive. They scratch their head and say, no, this is a trip. These people are a little bit crazy, you know? These people are a little bit crazy. We are attracted by the namarupas and we lose sight of true existence. We lose sight of the inherent existence, which is there, conceding existence, conceding apparent existence to all namarupas. There is only one true existence. Therefore, what should you do to experience Brahman? Experience Sat Brahman. What should you do to experience Sat Brahman? Krishna says, you experience Sat Brahman, the existence of Brahman, only at all times. So when you say, the palate, the vision, everything is, Spasa is, Rupa is, but because of a mixture, because of mixing up the Nama Rupa with what is Sabda and Sparsa, I forgot in Rupa, a color, name, colors, and forms. The Nama Rupas, yeah. So because we have the objects defined by name, colors, and, and attributes and forms, yeah, and then we get caught up with those namarupas. But we have to know that the same way we cannot experience this world around us without consciousness. So if we experience the world, we experience through and through consciousness. Therefore, we experience consciousness and the objective world around us. We are never not experience consciousness, okay? Because we experience through consciousness the world. The same way we cannot experience directly existence without a pramana by which we can experience existence. In this case, the pramana are the namarupas, and then we need another pramana, which is Vedanta, that clarifies that to us. Okay, so we experience Sat Brahman all the time. Okay, every moment, but we experience this through the namarupas. So it's all the time shining, upon the namarupas, producing these apparent objects which shines with apparent existence or reflected existence to stretch the teachings on reflected consciousness, okay? But it's understandable we are caught up with the attraction the namarupas present to us, and we lose the truths, okay? We require a very sensitive and refined instrument to appreciate Sat-Chit, the true nature of Brahman, no? The only reality. We require a certain pramana, a certain sensibility, a certain instrument, okay, by which we can very refined, we can understand and appreciate these teachings. And these teachings are not only to give us intellectual satisfaction, but they are meant and designed to give us emotional satisfaction, peace, okay? Peace and tranquility. Then we move into the next file where he repeats the 15th, the verse 15th. Swami reminds us that in this chapter, Krishna begins with Arjuna presenting 6 technical words in Vedanta that he wants to have clarification: Kshetran, Kshetranya, Yanan, Jneya, Prakrit, and Purusha. So we have broken down all these 6 terms into 2 principles, basically, okay? And or 3 if we want: Kshetran, Kshetranya, the inert, the sentient, and Yana. And the Yana here is not just knowledge, but was present as the virtues once acquired, and knowledge is unavoidable, okay? So we have the kshetran and kshetranya, meaning to say the jagat world of phenomenal objects, and then we have the jiva, the sentient entity with better intellect, so we could say that. And then we have jagata and we have jiva. So what is the purpose of this kshetra, this jagat world? I mean, jiva comes with the jagat world. And then what is the purpose? It's knowledge, jnana, because the purpose of living in this duality is not just experience, but is jnana, extract wisdom from experience. Therefore, jnana is, although it means knowledge, here is present as a set of qualifications, qualities, or how did he say? He was present virtues. Virtues that once they are developed, jnana is already there. This Brahma is explained by Krishna from the verse 13th. Now we on the 15th. As pure existence, okay? The other nature of Brahman. Swami says this is one of the subtlest concepts or teaching of Vedanta. Those are our favorite words, existence and consciousness. Those are the two most important Vedantic words, consciousness and existence. That's why Brahman is called Satchit, Satchit Rupa, or Satyam Jnanam. Satchit Rupa. What is Rupa go for here?
I think it's in the form of existence, consciousness.
Okay. Brahman is called Satchit, the only reality, I like to put it. It has a nature which is limitless because it's one without a second. Therefore, it said it's Satchit Ananda, but Ananda is usually translated in English as bliss, or experiential bliss. And Ananda is, the origin of this word seems to come from Ananta, which means limitlessness. So once we understand that there are two orders, one is real, which is Satyam, which is the only reality. Therefore, it's one without a second. If there are two, there is change, as we have seen. If Brahman would be a real experienced entity, Brahman would be change. Wherever there are two, there is an interaction that produces change. But being one without a second, it's not only limitless, but it's also unchanging. Okay? Nirvikara does not change, does not have a place where it ends, a border or frontiers. So this word existence was the topic of our previous class. According to Vedanta, existence is the most unique thing. It's difficult to call thing, but what else? How to call it? You can say is the existence is the most unique concept, Vedanta concept I like better, or principle. Principle is more practical, and he says here, and all the principles that we talked about for consciousness we can extend for existence. Okay, existence, all the principles which are more like qualities or features in this case. So all the features we have talked about regarding consciousness, they apply equally to existence, okay? So as we know, we're going to describe those features, mostly those features, as net. It's not this, it's not that, because it can never be said to be this or that, because in order to say it's this and that, we need to be pointing out to something which is conformed by gunas. With regard to consciousness, we have seen these fundamental principles or features. Consciousness is not PPP, part, product, or property of matter. Consciousness is independent entity, provides, enlivens everything. Matter is just an appearance in consciousness. Consciousness pervades everything. Consciousness goes beyond the dimensions or the limitations or the borders of the matter, expanding in all directions beyond the cosmos. So that's a good picture. There is a cosmos. They say, oh, this is a big manifestation. Consciousness being limitless. This projection is a small little thing between consciousness and how far it goes in all directions. So it's beyond time and space. We cannot talk about that. Time and space is produced when Maheshwara project not only Jagata, but the Jiva. The Jiva is going to bring about the concept of time. Then I said consciousness survives even when the body is destroyed. And the fifth and finally feature is that in the absence of a surviving instrument of experience, consciousness is not recognized. If the body dies, consciousness is no longer recognizable in that body. Okay? So, is that a fact? Yes and no. You are not going to recognize consciousness in the usual way, because when the body is alive, consciousness manifests and is recognized as the ahankara. Eu tô aqui, I'm still alive. Don't bury me. Don't kill me. Don't burn me, and so on. So if the aham is not recognizable, is not anymore there, the body is said to be dead. Okay, so consciousness is still in the dead body. Okay, it's not producing a hum, but it's producing other phenomena such as a process by which the body is going to be consumed by some other creatures or burned to go back into the fire element. So not because it's not there, but because there is no body medium for manifestation. We know the usual analogy or example, electricity all over the house, it's present, but we can see only when there is an equipment, electrical something, air conditioning, TV, or whatever. If it's functional, a bulb, and then we say there is power. The moment there are no indications, there is no way we can experience this consciousness. We can experience electricity, we can experience by its effects through certain equipment. So the moment we cannot experience the effects, and then we're gonna say, oh, maybe the power is off, and then you have to do some further tests to see. And they do this with the dying bodies as well. Before they finish with the body, they hide the body or they burn the body. They want to make sure to see if the power is going to come back or not. Sometimes they work hard to pump again, to to blow some air, So the manifesting, the instrument must be there, without which consciousness is not going to be verifiable, recognized. So the same principle applies to existence, okay? Sat eva chit, chit eva sat. Can you translate this? Eva, sat, chit?
I think that means it's surely existence is surely consciousness, and vice versa.
Okay, surely. Okay, thank you. So therefore, all five principles apply to consciousness, does apply to existence also. Existence is not part product of any object, any namarupa. What is existence then? Vedanta says existence is not part product or property of any object, any namarupa. So how are we going to explain existence? Except by pointing to the fact that there is a reverse taking place and people believe that the objects they possess intrinsically their own existence. We say oh, existence is not in the object. Existence is an independent entity. So it's not part product. So what else to say? It's not. I mean, how many? I want to know what it is existence. And then I say, well, it's the same as consciousness. And then say, oh, consciousness, that's good. Okay. And then immediately, so what is consciousness? Oh, that's a long story. It's not the mind, it's not the intellect. Consciousness is something beyond the mind and the intellect. And existence. So I know that I live because I exist in the body as the body. And then I said, no, that is another long story. So the body exists within you as existence. The body falls, but you as existence remains the same. You are like space and so on. And then a lot of nididhyasana must take place until we understand our nature and we can reap the fruits of this understanding. Secondly, what is the second principle? Existence is independent entity. So the true nature of object is existence, but it's not that there are trillions of existence which are modified by the namarupas. No, existence does not change. Consciousness does not change. It's nirvikara the same way. Okay, it's one non-dual, no unchanging existence. So it is the ultimate reality, the ultimate substance, so to speak. It's free and independent from its namarupas. This existence blesses the body or pervades the body, such as in the case with consciousness, conceding, making, or lending existence to the body. It lends existence to any inert object and also the sentient, mental or emotional jivas. It's difficult to talk about the sentient beings because the sentient beings, they are all the time attached to a physical body. The physical body is inert, but there is almost like an interface between the physical body and the mind body, the subtle body, that produce this reflected consciousness, okay? So, and reflect existence. So when you have the physical body, which is inert, but we can say the body is. We have the mind, well, the ahamkara, we say, yeah, the ahamkara is, okay? So the body alone can never produce this understanding, okay? The aham is Brahman, no? And the mind alone without the physical body cannot know as well that aham is Brahman, because the mind can never really make full use of its Viveka Shakti without being attached to the physical instruments, and in this case, processors such as the human brain. Existence pervades the body and makes the body existent. And the third principle, as we know, this existence pervades the body, extends beyond the periphery of the body, just as light that falls upon the body is not on the body, the light extends beyond the body. Existence is not limited by the boundaries of the body. No? So we have this This example of light, which is better used to explain the nature of consciousness, okay, consciousness is the illuminator, yeah? Is that which allows the jiva, the human mind, the reflect consciousness, to see the world around us, okay, the subtle and the physical world. So light is more like the chit nature of Brahman as the illuminator that reveals things, So just as the light that falls on my body is not inherent to my body, the light extends beyond my body. Similarly, existence is not limited by the boundaries of my body. It's going to, so to speak, reflect itself as the existence of my physical body, existence of my sensory apparatus, sense organs, perceptive organs, mind, everything is existing. And all existence comes from one single source of existence. Then what is the fourth principle? Existence survives even after the death of the body. So when the body died, I tried to present this analogy as well. Existence is still there. What was that left the body when the body lost its life force or sentience? So what has left? It was the subtle body. The mind left the body. Okay? And the life and the mind is the instrument by which consciousness enlivens and animates the physical body. So the subtle body says, okay, no, I'm done here. This body does not serve any purpose anymore. And furthermore, there are some karmic laws here that send me the signal that I need to leave this body now. And then the mind leaves the body. And then the body is said to be a dying body or dead body. Yeah? And then, of course, consciousness remains pervading the body, but not producing uh, consciousness, but it still produces existence. A body which decay, this exists equally. Okay? A body that's being burned is still existing, is there to be burned. So that's why in space travel, when they go beyond our atmosphere, you will have eternal darkness. There is no day-night vision at all. We are able to have daylight upon the Earth because the Earth has an atmosphere which is capable of reflecting sunlight. Now, this is why the blue canopy we are seeing. Okay, so this is a very nice concept. Now we are going into this chit nature of Brahman, because when we talk about light, we are referring to the illuminator, and then the closest analogy or example of consciousness in analogy is our physical light, sunlight, okay? Because we know that light is the principle of fire, illuminating our life experience here, producing life and illuminating our interactions. So, and then this is a very intriguing thing because we see from here there is so much light, and then when people travel above or beyond our atmosphere, there is only darkness. Okay, so what produces the light? The light is produced by a reflection. Okay, so consciousness needs a reflecting medium to produce reflected consciousness. It needs a reflecting apparatus. The sunlight travels from so far away, travels when it comes here. In order to produce light and heat to this planet, it needs the atmosphere. The atmosphere brings about all these particles that reflect light, and this light is projected upon the surface of our planet so that we can grow food and we can transact. You know? Even the blue sky we see is nothing but a phenomena, physical, optical phenomena. Now it's the blue color scattered is due by dust particles. So we need a reflecting medium that goes back either as consciousness. Reflecting medium is going to produce the reflect consciousness, and existence needing namarupas, which includes our physical body, is going to produce understanding that the body owns or has its own intrinsic existence. But no, it is such as in this example, it is a reflection. The existence of Brahman appears as existing uniquely or singularly upon every one of these Namarupa. We say, I know I exist and my chicken exists. So, oh no, but my existence is much superior. You know why? It's the same existence. You know, you go beyond the atmosphere, and there is only that eternal darkness. Even when you see the sun, between the sun and you if you go traveling direction of the sun, you are going to find nothing but darkness. You know, once you go upon above our atmosphere, you're gonna see only darkness. Okay, you are moving closer to the sun, but you see no more light. Light needs a reflecting medium. In the empty space of our, how do you say, galaxy, there are no objects producing that kind of reflectivity. So if someone asks, there is sunlight, there is sunlight or not? What reply would give? There is, but not recognizable without these particles that produce the reflection. Is there sunlight? Yes, there is, but not visible. Is there electricity? Yes, but not visible and recognizable. Is there existence? Yes, there is, but it's only recognizable through its namarupas. Is there consciousness? Is, but only reflect upon the subtle body of the jiva to produce reflected consciousness. And then we recognize conscious existence. Vedanta says existence survives even after the fall of the body. The same way the sunlight is unaffected in the absence of those particles that produce luminosity. Right? So what does that say about us? It says that we are free and independent of this body mind that somehow reflect conscious existence. Because our true nature, intrinsic nature, is conscious existence with or without a reflecting medium. With or without a medium by which this conscious existence can be recognized and known. Therefore, we must know that before we lose our body. But then Ishvara says, don't worry, I'm going to give you another body and again another body until you understand that. You understand your true nature and then you relax. So, and what is the fifth point, final? Surviving existence is now recognized because of the absence of a manifesting, reflecting medium. Okay, here he talks about existence being reflected upon the Namarupa. Was present this concept, and I'm glad that Swamiji also presents the same concept. And a reflecting medium. So whatever reflecting media are there, you will feel existence. Wherever a reflecting medium is not there, there will be existence. But you would not recognize in that existence is of the nature of consciousness. And that existence is Brahman. And that consciousness is of the nature of existence, which is Brahman. And this Brahman, you are Arjuna. All of us, we are this Brahman, this conscious existence, our true nature, with or without a reflecting medium, a body, mind, sense complex. This is the meaning, the final teaching of Vedanta, Tattvamasi. The teacher and the scriptures present this concept, this final declaration, Tattvamasi, was you are that limitless conscious existence. And the disciple is invited to dwell upon this, contemplate until it comes back again. He said, yes, now I got it. Aham Brahmasmi. Okie dokie. It's good to feel better again today. And we meet again this coming Friday, no? Anything from you guys? I spoke so much and rapidly. I did not give much an opportunity for you guys.
That was absolutely beautifully unfolded. Yeah, wonderful description. Very clear and lovely.
Thank you. I enjoyed it. It's very nice. It's very important for the mind to be in good shape. Ishwara is all the time throwing inspiration to the guru, but as we know, the mind grows old as well, and then it's no longer as good a receptor as it was at younger age. We meet on Friday. Yes, Lynn, you're going to say something?
Well, I was just wondering, these 5 points that Swami Paramarthananda distills for us, I was wondering if they are presented in any of the Upanishads as those 5 points, because I haven't read all of them, but all the Upanishads, but it's just dwelling on these 5 points, you
Yeah,
know?
and that's a good point, a good question. I suspect our sampradaya stands on the teachings of Adi Shankaracharya. Okay, so I don't remember seeing these except with the expositions of Swamiji. Swamiji is very creative, and he has added some nice uh, structures, teaching structures, and it
All
could
his little acronyms like FIR reduction and all
yeah,
that
everything like that. So, but
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised that these teachings of the PPP and so on, the features of consciousness and existence as well, they are originally from Adi Shankara, because I mean, in our sampradaya, everybody studied the scriptures in Sanskrit from what Shankaracharya wrote or said in his days.
Yeah.
It's not important to know. It's a beautiful exposition of the features of conscious existence. But as a matter of curiosity, if you find out, let me know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Will do. Lovely class.
Thank you. Did we do our Puna?
Not yet.
Om Purnamidam Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishate Om Shanti 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 Om Vishwara, então, uh, so next Friday, same time, we carry on. Bye bye. Thank you. Love you.
Thanks, Arlinda. Igualmente.
Thank you. Bye bye.